Well, you might look at the title of this slide and say, yeah, right, I'm exhausted, I'm stressed out, the market sucks, and you're going to have me do what? Yeah, I am. Stick with me. Up front, let me tell you, everything in here in its various component parts has been tried thousands and thousands of times by yours truly as a producer and also to the thousands of FAs I have taught it to. This stuff works. We just never put it together thinking in terms of how we're going to use it as we get to the end of our career. So let's walk through this a little bit and see if it makes some sense. The assumptions are you're probably going to retire in place. You may have identified a successor already, or maybe you haven't, but let's give it some thought as we move through. First, let's look at some backgrounds on this. First of all, over the next 10 years, roughly 10,000 FAs are going to retire. Now, assuming a senior FA, let's say on average, has $200 million on their book, that essentially comes down to $200 billion is going to be transferring from guys that are senior to, I don't know, that's going to be a problem because, as many of you know, a lot of firms after 08 and 09 kind of gave up on training, and it was kind of survival of the fittest. And unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of folks coming up the pipeline that looked like the numbers that I did or the numbers that you guys who have got 25 years plus in the business would have done. So if you're going to stay in your firm's book transition program, it's pretty critical, unless you don't care about your clients, at which point just stop watching now, that you find someone that's actually worthy. Someone that can maybe even help you between the time you identify them and the time you decide to exit, and more importantly, allow you to work less. Now, let's get a couple things squared away first. I'm about to show you a report, a couple slides in, that you're going to say, how's he do that? Where's that come from? There will be a link at the end of the video where you can see exactly how I construct these things because I do it for every single client I work with. I don't care what you think about your book. You have no idea what's really going on in there. And I've done this with producers with $2, $3, $4 billion in assets, and they look at it and they look at the analysis, they go, holy shit, how did that happen? I'll show you one as we go through. The issue, 50% of wirehouse FAs right now have less than 14 years experience. Now let me do some math here. 2022 minus 2008. What happened in 2008? Oh, I remember. The market crash. Not only did the market crash, almost the entire economy crashed. Story for another day, but if you were in business, let's say less than 3 or 4 years, and you hit 2008, you didn't really have a book. Odds are your clients panicked, you panicked. Why did you pick this job? Lots of people stopped coming in, and it was an issue. However, this is the group in this category that is likely, more often than not, to require your book. Maybe you've identified them already. Maybe you're thinking you can teach them how to do this. I have another video on the things you don't want to do as you think about getting out of the business. So how are you going to identify your strongest candidate? Well, let's not make it a personality contest. Let's not say, hey, I really like this guy, unless, of course, it's your daughter or your son, at which point we'll go down that pathway. But, again, the issue of you trying to teach them how to be you, good luck with that. So, how do we do it? I like this concept of multiple tryouts. If you've got someone you're working with now that you've identified, they're a junior member of your team, just because they're a junior member of your team does not mean they're going to buy your book out. Things to look at. Do these people remind you of you when you were at that age? If the answer is no, strike one. Don't want to be there. Number two, if you've set up some sort of percentage share in a general pool number, let's call it an 85-15, I see that a lot, and this FA is not going out and hunting business on their own. Essentially, they've decided they were born on third base, and they didn't hit a triple. You handed it to them. Second big mistake. Again, I'll get into these in another video. What we really have to think about is this. If that junior FA were left to their own devices, just leave them alone, could they build a multi-million-dollar book? Or could they even build a book that resembles yours? If the answer is no, what are you doing? Seriously, why do you think they're going to be able to hang on to the book? So before you make this enormous first step and commit to some 26, 27, 28-year-old, I don't care how old they are, how do you know they're the right person? Even if you've got one on your team, it doesn't mean they're ordained and you have to get them your book. I'm working with several teams right now where they didn't have the right people. And the senior FA felt a little guilty. They didn't do the proper job training. After I dug in and started learning about everything, it wasn't the senior FA's problem. It was the fact that the people they designated just decided all they had to do was hang around until this FA got fed up and left. They were going to hit a lottery ticket. Bad way to do it. There's a better way to do it. A far better way to do it. And it starts by looking at what's actually going on in your book. Now, I referenced this report before. This is a report I cooked up more years ago than I can remember when I was training and producing at Merrill Lynch. This report's known as the Client Relationship Quotient, but right here, we're just going to do the math. So if we look at this FA's book, on the top line, you can see where my pointer's going here. Pretty decent book, a little less than $500 million, 139 households, 3.2 million in production, 3.5 million in average AUM per household, average PCs a year. And now we start to break it down a little bit. All I did, a little bit of math, a little bit in Excel. I took the average productivity of 23,000 plus, I multiplied it by 1.33, I got here. I multiplied that same number by 0.66, I got here. Everything in the middle falls in between. That's tier 2. So I just broke down the 3 tiers. Yeah, you're probably thinking it's 80-20, get rid of it. No, stop. Don't jump ahead. Let's take a look first at tier 1. 24 households. Total production from those 24 households, just under 2.4 million. Not so bad. 17% of the households. 74% total productivity. Average AUM per household, a little under 11 million bucks. Average production per household, 99,000. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, as we go down and look at tier 2, we can see things start to drop off, although tier 2 still looks pretty good. We've got between 19 and 24, that's 43 households, generating what, 90% of the production? Not so bad. Take a look at tier 3. Imagine you're going to pair up with an FA that's between LOS 5 and 10. If that FA is in the first or second quintile, which in my opinion they absolutely should be, that's the kind of person you want to talk to. Odds are they've got a book, hopefully, that's on the way in their first phase, pursuing their first million, that looks kind of like this. Think about it. When you were LOS 5, how much would you have loved to be involved with a book that looks like this FA's current tier 3? Chances are you really would. Let's break it out further. Book ROA 0.66. Not bad. I can deal with that. At the top, 0.91. Excellent. Indicative of they're getting paid attention to. There's only 24 of them. They all have a lot of money. There's probably really good penetration. In each case, the FA, you're probably the primary financial advisor. Book 2, 0.54. Also, not so bad. Maybe not the penetration we have, but between these 2 top tiers of these 43 households, we have got 90% of the total productivity. Oh, and by the way, the vast majority of the assets. Now we look down here. 0.26. Why? Why 0.26? How about this? The FA looks at their top tier clients and says, that's where I need to put my time. That's what I really have to do. Now, these folks at the bottom, you know all of them. They all basically signed on with you. You made them all sorts of promises. Life's going to be great. We're going to take great care of you. And you probably haven't talked to them in what? 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. They're calling your assistants, by the way. And they're taking time to deal with. And you still have to deal with kind of the incoming issues rather than the outgoing pouring out of how much you love them and how much you care about them. And I'm sure you still do. But, oh, you're so busy, you just can't handle it. But you've got these people working with you. What are they doing? Who are they talking to? So what I like to do is think about these tier 3 accounts, again, just using math and starting to think in terms of, if I'm a senior FA, what do I really want to do? I want to work less. I want to make more. I want to engage with clients I love who are at the top by now, probably close personal friends. And I want to find the right person to succeed me. And you've got the perfect setup. Just look at how this can work. Look at these tier 3 assets. If they just went to a book average of 0.66 and you said that if an FA, 2 FAs, 3 FAs, I don't care how many you're going to try out, if they can drive this thing up to 0.66, that's an additional $540,000. Even if you're only going to take half of that, it's a huge benefit to you. And at the same time, the FAs you're talking to, it's a much bigger benefit to them. So if we do that and we don't get married too quickly and we fail to really use this tryout concept to figure out who's right to take our book over, you guys, A, are leaving a lot of money on the table, B, are going to stress out trying to train the additional FA to become you, and beyond that, your service is going to fall off. They're not going to become you. First of all, no offense, you don't know how to teach them. I'm wearing my Vail ski and snowboard shirt today for a particular reason. I've been a really good skier almost my entire life. When I started instructing 3 years ago, I didn't know anything about teaching. Zero. I had to learn how to teach. It's kind of a different skill set. I've taught so many FAs over time. I watch other FAs try and teach. Yes, are there some that can do it? Absolutely. Should you do it as a line FA trying to drive your greatest year ever? And you're going to somehow by osmosis teach someone that maybe you're not even related to become you? Good luck. Because what happens more often than not is kind of something that looks like this. Ruh-roh. You ever get that feeling? You're coming up for air. You're climbing out. Once you do this, it's kind of hard to get that off of you. Let's get engaged first and find multiple candidates who wish to compete for your book. Maybe pick 5, maybe pick 10 accounts to try out, but here are your 2-step tryouts. Step 1, let's identify who we think might work. We're looking between 5 and 10 LOS. First or second quintile assets under management and trailing 12. You want people that are out there. They're affable, they're hungry, they have goals. They're going to get big whether or not they deal with you or they do it on their own. They should remind you of you. Strong planning skills. A lot of senior FAs I talk to, you guys are just kind of fed up. I don't want to use technology. I don't want to run the financial plans. Wow. Knock it off, guys. Seriously. You understand by now that to keep a client, you've got to show this holistic hug. You've got to know everything you can about them, their kids, their goals, their dreams, all the rest of it, so the conversation can focus on aligning their assets based on their needs, not based on whatever your latest great idea is. You want them primarily fee-based. Why? Well, it's a smarter way to run a business, and a lot of your calculation on that last T12 you print is going to be based on fee-based. In fact, several of the firms, from what I've seen, will actually give you a premium over and above whatever that payout grid is, assuming you've got primarily a fee-based business. You want people that are optimistic and affable. You don't want to come in and look at some younger guy with a long face. How's it going? Oh, nobody's returning my calls. I don't know what to say. What are you going to do? Teach them how to make an investment introduction? Activation, second step. Set up a joint number with a 50-50 split. I want you to pick 5 households from tier 3. Just 5. People you haven't talked to, people that you're going to give to this tryout FA and say, go forth, and here's what you need to show me. I want to see what you can do as far as increasing fee-based revenue. Remember, they're at a 0.26 now. And I want you to find more assets under management. I'm going to measure you on both. Check back with me in a week. Let me know how you're doing. 1 month from now, we're basically going to keep score and see what happens. If you do well, guess what? You get 5 more. Now, what that FA doesn't know is you're making that same deal with 1 or 2 other FAs. And it becomes a horse race. Survival of the fittest. Let them know they're in competition. Don't tell them who else they're working with, but let them know they're in competition. You want FAs that are out there and recognize this is a golden opportunity to win your book at some point in the future. Guys, these things are incredibly valuable. And you can say, well, I don't care because once I print the trade and I'm out of there, what do I care what happens? Here's why. Because between the time you decide you're going to do this and the time you leave, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 years. This approach allows that tier 3 to build out as a separate book with maybe the 1 or 2 FAs you designated, and all you're doing is worrying about your top 40 or 45 relationships. More time to focus on them, more time to interact, socialize, all the rest of it, and you've been doing this long enough that I can tell you what will happen. You'll start picking up more clients that look just like them. You'll work less, you'll make more. Tell me where I'm wrong. Letter goes out, set the meetings to update with the FA, make it all about the numbers. So why do you want to do it? First of all, you know you're ignoring the clients in tier 3. You are. You absolutely are. There's another video on the channel called The Starbucks Incident. Go look at that one and tell me that's never happened to you. I promise you that it has. Your time can be more focused on tier 1 and tier 2. Test out the AFAs in real time. Don't get attached to one. Even if they're on your team currently, start assigning them clients at the lower tier. If they can't hack it with you right there, making these calls, developing a service model that makes more sense for the people on the lower tier, what are you doing? Oh, by the way, if you're already in one of these 85-15 things, which I really don't like. On those lower tier clients, any net new assets that come in, any increase in fee-based revenue, 50-50. You've got to motivate even someone that you're already giving a share of your book to. You've got to motivate them down low. You've got to give them an opportunity to make more money, especially if when you grab them, they were on first and second quintile track. Now all of a sudden they're stuck 85-15. They bring in a $20 million account and they're getting 15%. That's going to end badly. Partner incrementally. You can engage with people. If they don't work out, you can just say, look, after a month, 2 months, we're going to take it back 95.5. We're going to take 95% of it back. We're going to leave you on the statement so the client doesn't get upset. Maybe you can show me something, maybe you can't, but you've got to earn the right to be there every single day. Guys, don't commit early. You do not have to have that designated person until you absolutely sign the documents and they sign as well. You can intend to go out, but you're not locked in until you make that choice. Now, most firms I've seen, you've got to have that team formed within 1 year of you actually punching out. But in a lot of cases, at the time you commit, even when you get that first check, which you do in some cases, you do not have to be committed. Make your decision based on performance during that initial engagement period. Again, don't get married. It makes no sense. Been a pilot more years than I can remember. I think mentally I became a pilot when I was like 2 years old. Flying on an airplane is a funny thing. Is it risk? Yeah, there's more risk than flying commercially. But what it comes down to is this. There's certain axioms that pilots really gravitate towards. And I have found that in my production career and even in my teaching career, it's really made a lot of sense. This is one of my favorites. It's far better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air than being in the air wishing you were on the ground. Think about things you've done with clients and you say to yourself, oh man, if I could just undo this trade, I'd give 5 times the commission back. Because we did something we didn't fully understand and we did it without the appropriate study. This decision you'll make on your exit package is the last and largest professional decision you will ever make. The numbers could be extraordinary, guys. Don't blow it. I referenced before there's a video that will follow this one that will show you how I break out a business like this. I showed you the quantitative side of it. Now I want to show you the qualitative side, which also really matters. Stay tuned.